Greetings and welcome to the Astronomy Picture of the Day podcast. Today's picture for November 16th of 2025 is titled Crossing Saturn's Ring Plane. So, what do we see here? Well, here we see an image taken by the Cassini spacecraft, which orbited Saturn between 2004 and 2017. And here we see one of the earlier images from February of 2005. And this occurs when Cassini was crossing the plane of Saturn's rings. Now, the blue line across the center is the rings of Saturn as they are seen almost completely edge on. And that gives you an idea of how thin these rings actually are. They are much thinner than a piece of paper if you did them to scale. So that gives an idea of how thin and how easily they are to disappear when you look at them edge on. And that was why when the rings were first seen by Galileo back in the early 1600s, he was confused because they were there sometimes and then other years they would vanish. They would not be visible. And that's because when they turn edge on as seen from Earth, then you would not be able to see them really at all. They would almost completely disappear. And it wasn't until a few decades after that we actually got our first ideas of what the rings are. Now, here we can actually see the rings as well, not just the thin line there that we see, but we can also see the shadow of the rings up on Saturn, on the upper portion of Saturn here. So as the sunlight passes through the rings block out some of that light and cast a shadow on Saturn. Now, some of the regions there's some gaps in the rings, and we can see those very distinctly here and see where more or less light is getting through. So some regions are very dark, meaning that the rings are blocking out a lot of light. Other regions are gaps and you almost can't see any light being blocked out. You're just seeing the surface of Saturn. Now, Cassini did explore these and crossed Saturn's ring planes a number of times and tried to give us a little more information and understanding of the rings of this giant planet. And we see two bumps in the rings there, one to the left over the image of Saturn itself, and another to the right, off toward the right end of the image. Those are actually two of Saturn's moons that are imaged as well. The moons follow in the same plane as the rings. So, just as our solar system orbits essentially in a flat plane, so are the systems of most of the moons and rings in the solar system. Everything seems to orbit within one flat plane. So that, for example, drawing a solar system or the rings of Saturn and the moons on a piece of paper is actually a very good estimation of how closely aligned they are, how closely lined up they are. They aren't orbiting at all different angles. They are actually orbiting on almost all in the same plane together, as we can see here with how well those moons line up with the ring plane. So that was our picture of the day for November 16th of 2025. It was titled Crossing Saturn's Ring Plane. We'll be back again tomorrow for the next picture, previewed to be Unusual Comet Tail. So we'll see what that is about tomorrow. And until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.